Good afternoon, and Niklas, welcome. Pleasure
Thank you.
sharing the stage with you. And right, let's get to the point. We have more than 1,000 startup companies over here, and you have some experience of being an entrepreneur and then later on as an investor and advisor. So first question, I mean, companies is in its startup phase, but what are the sort of the key challenges an entrepreneur faces when he or she is planning to scale up the business and move on to the next stage of development?
Sure, I mean, there is obviously very different stages of challenges. I think there's a lot of entrepreneurs here that you see on Slush, which are very early stage to have a product, a prototype, and it's all about finding the product market fit. But once you're there, once it's something that actually works, it's very important for to scale your business and to not only scale the internationally, but also the organization, get hiring the right people, and in the right speed. Not maybe not also hiring too fast.
In terms of just giving a few sort of practical tips, what are they based on your experience? Some of the things that you've perhaps learned the hard way, that you've made mistakes in your first essays or enterprises, and then later on learned that how to do it. Just a couple of sort of practical tips for young entrepreneurs.
Well, I think you mentioned it. That what's important is that you actually make mistakes on a daily basis. And I think it's about making many mistakes, but learn from them very quickly. And that's really the entrepreneur's method of work is trial and error, and not being afraid of those mistakes, and then you just move on. So, when people ask me what are some of the big mistakes you made, it's like, gee, I don't know, because that's not the way I look at mistakes. Mistakes are, you try something and then it doesn't work out, and then you do something, you do things in a different way. But I think it's also important for entrepreneurs to share their experiences with others and to learn from each other as well.
Sharing experiences in covering the gaming scene over here in Helsinki, what I've learned is that information moves fast on horizontal level between companies. So basically entrepreneurs are willing to share the kind of things that they've done right, but more crucially that what they've done wrong. Is this something that makes the sort of the startup scene, and especially the mobile gaming scene over here in Helsinki, special or distinct, that sets it apart perhaps from some other startup hubs and scenes around the world?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think right now we're seeing a very vibrant, community of startup companies in Helsinki, and I don't know if it's very different from other places, but I think in any kind of community where you're starting to have more companies, they started to share their experiences with each other. But the other thing that you have is that you're starting to have people move between different companies, and if you're CEO of the company, you may not like that. One of your best employees is leaving to another startup company, but actually I think it's a very healthy way for sharing experience, and that's actually something that's happened a lot in Silicon Valley, where people tend to not be that loyal to companies, which is a disadvantage for the company, but it's great for sharing a lot of best practices.
Slush is a sort of a tangible proof that there is right now momentum, not only in Helsinki and Finland, but more broadly in the Baltic Rim, and also we have companies coming in from Russia. At the same time, I know that it's sort of the ambitious plan of the Startup Foundation that's behind one of the leading organizers of Slush is to create Finland into a major sort of a startup hub along the lines of Silicon Valley, Israel, Singapore. Do you think that Helsinki actually could have the sort of the makings of becoming a startup capital, and then Finland perhaps more broadly a startup nation?
I think that if you go around and visit several cities, if you go to London, to Berlin, Helsinki, Stockholm, Dublin, the local mayor or the government, they want those cities or countries to be the technology capital. That's all really, really good, because it means that there is competition. And entrepreneurs are pretty mobile. If you're an entrepreneur, somewhere, it's very easy to pack your bag and move somewhere else. And what you see now is that entrepreneurs who are in Helsinki, they really see no reason to move out of here. You sort of heard Ilkka said on stage just recently, this is a very, very good place to build a successful worldwide company. And it's a really good climate. It's a very good, government co-investment scheme. And there's a lot of very, very good talent. And I think that what we've seen happening with Nokia is unleashing a lot of talent, and people realize that now it's not about to go and work for the big company, it's about to join a startup. So you have a lot of ingredients for that. And of course, maybe the two most important things, you have Supercell and Rovio, because those are two success stories that shows entrepreneurs that you can build a global company from here.
And also, I mean, you can only develop if you get constructive criticism. What is the sort of, based on your expertise and experience, what is the sort of perhaps the key thing right now that the Finnish policymakers and the powers that be who can affect the overall climate and momentum should do to make Helsinki and Finland even more attractive to start up?
Well, I'm not an expert on the policies in Finland in detail, but I would give the same advice to policymakers all around. What they should do is encourage students to take engineering. They should encourage students to do entrepreneurial projects, whether that's in school, and to try out to be an entrepreneur as a test. And also, of course, at universities. So those things are, long term, very, very important. It's also important to celebrate the success stories, and of course to create a great climate for investors to invest in these companies, and also for people who are working for these companies who maybe have stock options not to be taxed too much on those stock options, because it's very rare that they actually turn out to be something that's valuable, and then you should let people have that benefit.
Okay. Atomico has made some very good investment in Finnish companies, and obviously money is a key ingredient of an investment. Startup entrepreneur needs money to expand and scale up, but at the same time it's also about cooperation and working together. So I mean, do a pitch for Atomico. What sets you apart among the other VC firms, that how on practical level, once you decide to make an investment, you interact and work together with the startup entrepreneur? So
the reason we started Atomico 7 years ago was that we felt that there was not a lot of entrepreneurs who were investors, and a lot of investors were financial guys who looked at very much about the numbers but didn't really understand the challenges for entrepreneurs. So we started Atomico to be entrepreneurs investing in entrepreneurs, and what we believe in is that we have to be there to help the companies, and we'll see ourselves as a service organization. The key things that we try to do is to help companies to expand internationally. So we have people in various places in China, Japan, Korea, Turkey, of course here in Europe, and in Latin America, to help companies to expand into those markets. So that's one thing we do. The other thing we do is to help them with hiring, and help them to really understand how can they recruit the best possible people. So those are the key things that we try to do. So we don't think it's not so much about the money. The money is, it's the same thing, but it's all about helping the companies to scale.
On personal level, when you're assessing a potential investment, and especially the people behind it, what are the key qualities that you pay particular attention to?
Sorry, one more time?
What are the key qualities in an entrepreneur you pay special attention to, that you personally, based on your experience, have realized that these could be the things that make the difference between success and failure?
Yeah. So the thing for a successful entrepreneur, I think, are a few things. One thing, you have to be determined to win. If you're an entrepreneur, it's about it's a game in a way that you have to beat your competitors, you have to get there, you have to win. You have to have the vision, but very much you have to have the leadership skill. You have to lead, other people to join you early on in the company. You have to always hire the best people. You have to attract investors. You have to attract customers. So very much about leading, but also kind of a sales job to be the ambassador for the company, to have that vision, but also to have intellectual capacity to analyze and to understand problems, but also not to be insecure. So. I think, on the stage, I think Ilke is a fantastic entrepreneur because he has this confidence. He gets people around him to work, and he doesn't have to, show that he can do everything himself. And so those are some of the qualities. But, it's not that you have to fill out, a check form, but it's very much about trying to understand what drives the entrepreneur and if they have the determination.
To what extent can you learn and acquire those key abilities and qualities that an entrepreneur needs, and to what extent they're sort of inherent, inborn, that you cannot really learn them at the university or even through experience? You either have them or don't. So that how much you can study it and how much is it simply a raw ability?
Well, some people are just natural. They just, they don't need a lot of training and anything like that. But for me personally, what I did after school, I just went to work for, a great entrepreneur and learned a lot through that. And what I've seen, a lot of people who worked for me at Skype, many years ago, they were quite young, but they learned a lot through working in that company. And then they gone out and started their own companies. So I think this is about building the ecosystem. I'm sure that you will see, you already see it. You see people, Rovio employees going out and starting the companies. I think you will see that from Supercell. You certainly see that already from Skype. And this is the ecosystem being built where you have generations of successful startup companies where you have younger people who are maybe take a job as a very junior, developer or marketing guy, and they learn a lot and say, now it's time for me to try my own wings. And that's why I think, it's so fantastic here at Slush to see so many entrepreneurs here. I think it's a good sign we're going to see so many more entrepreneurs coming out of the region in the next 5 years.
Final question, more on a personal level. Obviously, you've done well, but before success came, were you ever disheartened and figured that, gee, maybe I should go back to being a salaried employee?
No, for me, when I made that move, in end of '99, beginning of 2000, just when the .com crash came, I felt so much relieved to be free and to be an entrepreneur. Although there was some really hard times, early days. Things didn't work and we ran out of money, and there's always times for in any behind a lot of successful companies, there's a lot of rough times. But for me, I never ever thought about going back and taking a safe job. And I think for me, once I got on the entrepreneurial path, that was it for me. And I think that for most, it's very rare that you see people trying out entrepreneurial project and then going back to take a job. But I want to say this, that if you do, if you go out and try something, if it doesn't work out, actually your CV is so much stronger, so much better that you've tried something. And even if it was a failure, it's a good thing to have in your CV. You're going to be much more of an employable person.
Something along the lines from the Nobel laureate author Samuel Beckett: ever tried, ever failed, no matter, try again, fail better. But anyhow, Niklas, it's been a pleasure talking with you.
Thank you.